This week on the Four Rivers Ag Report, we have garden tips, internet hoaxes, and how to tell when someone's in the mood. All that and much more on the Four Rivers Ag Report. Welcome to the Four Rivers Ag Report. I'm Fred Peralta. Can you believe it? It's October. The trees are dropping leaves before the soybean plants. It's been a strange year. These are the days I love in particular because the weather is great, the trees are pretty, and if you walk into a field, you can see for miles. But you know what we didn't see coming? No farm bill. With that and much more is Monica Becker. Monica?
Thanks, Fred. I'm Monica Becker. On Monday, the current edition of the Farm Bill expired without a replacement bill passing Congress. And as a result, we don't know how the programs and agriculture activity that the bill's regulated will be affected. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack commented this week on the lack of progress on the legislation and the problems it creates in rural communities and economies. Without action by the House of Representatives on a multi-year food, farm, and jobs bill, rural communities are today being asked to shoulder additional burdens and additional uncertainty in a tough time. The initial impact of not having a farm bill in place is thought to be the dairy industry, and we could see an increase in milk prices in the short term. According to some sources, milk prices will increase, possibly even doubling by the new year. Now, the farm bill isn't the only thing we're missing. How about the drought? The National Weather Service's National Drought Monitor has moved our area from moderate drought to abnormal dryness. Our area was designated to be in a drought starting in June and, as you well know, lasted until this week. The welcomed moisture has spaced out the harvest a little bit, but we're still making good progress. The USDA reports that corn is 98% matured statewide and 70% of the corn crop has been harvested. That's well ahead of both the last year rate of 29% and the 5-year percentage of 33%. Locally, we're at 100% matured and 85% harvested. Soybeans are shaping up too. Soybeans are rated at 17% very poor, 24% poor, 37% fair, 20% good, and only 2% is rated as excellent. Statewide sees soybeans at 98% turning yellow, 85% dropping leaves, and 22% harvested. The East-Southeast District is almost a Xerox of the state at 98% turning yellow, 85% dropping leaves, and the rain has slowed some bean harvesting with only 12% in. Our soil moisture continues to improve. Topsoil is reported at 4% very short, 19% short, 68% adequate, and 9% is rated as surplus. Subsoil is also improving. 16% is very short, 37% short, 47% is now adequate, and there is none reported as surplus. Farmers hit hard by the drought and rising feed prices sent a higher than usual number of animals to slaughter last month. And with that, we will most likely see the price of meat rise next year. Athena Jones has more.
People love meat.
Meat has pride of place at Jamie Stachowski's Butcher Shop in Washington.
What can I get for you, my friend?
Ham, pastrami, steak, it's all here.
We're a meat-eating country, and no matter what, people are going to find a way to get meat.
But with prices for pork and beef expected to rise next year,
Ahmed?
This longtime meat man says consumers will have to pay more or get used to new cuts.
What happened in the last increase is people went from eating a lot of primals, the New York strips, the porterhouses. They went to eating secondary cuts. Everybody loves bacon.
The coming sticker shock will impact not just butchers, but restaurants and dinner tables across the country.
The worst drought in decades means higher costs for animal feed and lower profits for farmers. Farms like this one here in Maryland have already had to raise prices to keep up.
What you doing, honey? Hi, pig.
Julie Grace Steiner runs a small farm near the West Virginia border, where she raises hens, hogs, and cattle. A third of her cost goes to animal feed, which is mostly corn and soy. Prices for chicken and pig feed have skyrocketed since July.
So it was $14.77 on July 2nd. Now it's $16.79. So it's gone up by $2 in 2 months.
It's a significant amount.
And so then here we have the pig pellet was $12.22, and now the pig pellet is $15.06.
So it's going to get worse.
It's going to get, it'll get a lot worse.
She's now charging $1 a pound more for her sausage, pork chops, and bacon, and plans to switch from corn-based hog feed to sorghum to save money.
It's requiring a lot more creativity. You have to be really good at adapting.
Since she doesn't raise broiler chickens, the kind you eat, in winter, Steiner is hoping to avoid the worst of the price spike for their feed. And unlike most American farmers, she grass feeds her cattle, meaning she won't have to worry about grain prices for them. Back in Washington, Stachowski's customers are preparing themselves.
The quality's worth it. I don't mind spending the money.
There's a limit to how much any person would pay.
One tongue-in-cheek solution to the problem?
Eat more tofu.
Then again, tofu is made of soy. Athena Jones, CNN, Sharpsburg, Maryland.
U.S. farmers are using more herbicides and pesticides to fight weeds and insects due to a rise in superweeds and hard-to-kill insects. A report by Charles Benbrook of Washington State University showed that genetically engineered crops have led to an increase in overall pesticide use from 1996 through 2011. The annual increase in the herbicides required to deal with tough-to-control weeds on cropland planted to genetically modified crops has grown from 1.5 million pounds in 1999 to about 90 million pounds in 2011. So does ragweed eat this stuff for breakfast? Well, last week we talked about arguments over water usage. This week we report the first skirmish. The drought dropped the water level of the Missouri River so low that grain barges could not float downstream. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers acted to raise the river's level by opening up some reservoirs near Manhattan, Kansas. The result? Several lakes have seen their levels drop drastically. Now boats are stuck in the mud, marinas have closed, and other businesses have lost customers and business. Kansas is now trying to prevent the Corps from doing this in the future without first approaching the local governments. The Corps argues that they were acting in accordance to a congressional mandate to keep the Missouri navigable. Stay tuned. I'm sure we'll be hearing more of this sort of thing. Now, we've heard of sexting, but not like this. A farmer in Switzerland is using text messaging to learn when his cows are in the mood. Christian Oesch has a herd of over 40 Holsteins and Jersey dairy cows. He is testing a device that implants sensors in the cows to let him know when the cows are in heat. When the sensor is activated, a message is sent to his phone and he can act on the cow's needs. It is expected to save money in artificial insemination and means less time lost producing milk. The devices have experienced some difficulty, often sending false positive messages, or maybe it's just harder to understand women than you think. That's it for this week. I'm Monica Becker.
Well, according to the calendar, it is now officially fall, and fall is when you gardeners start to think about next year. And Dave Shiley from the local Ag Extension Office is here. And Dave, you are going to talk today about IPM. What is IPM?
Now, IPM is just simply integrated pest management.
Oh, we got to take care of those pests, don't we?
That's right. You know, and the definition of a pest is something that it's kind of self-identified, like a weed, a plant out of place. But we're just using a multiple prong approach to controlling that organism. We've defined it as a pest.
Okay, now does the approach include stamping on? Because that's my favorite pest management technique.
No, yeah, that would be called mechanical control.
Okay, so my wife complains about me stomping on.
Right,
okay.
And so one of the mechanical controls, for example, with Japanese beetles, is to go out and knock those insects off into a bucket of soapy water, and then they're going to drown.
Oh.
And the way you find those is to do another part of IPM called crop scouting.
Okay.
So keeping an eye for that insect, and the reason you want to go after those first Japanese beetles as an example when they arrive on your rose bush, is that they're sending out pheromones that
Really?
signaling that, hey, Fred's plants in his garden are great to eat. So, so crop scouting is a big part of integrated pest management.
So they're doing pheromone advertising.
That's right.
Okay.
There you go.
So crop scouting is the first thing you should do. You
Right.
walk around, you scout what's going on in your garden or your bushes and your trees.
Yes.
What's the next step?
Well, the next step is then to decide what can I do? Is the population high enough for me to use a chemical as an example? If there isn't, some kind of mechanical control. We can also use biological control, and they're experimenting with the use of biological control to control the emerald ash borer, as an example.
So what sort of biological control for the ash borer is there?
Well, there's a parasitic wasp.
Okay.
And it parasitizes native tree boring insects, and so they're releasing that insect in areas that they're pretty sure, like up in Chicago, where they've had emerald ash borer identified, and hoping that that's going to work. And they will feed on the beetle. They capture the beetle, and kind of like those cicada killers we've seen, where they're capturing it and burying it. So.
Okay. So we crowd scout. You work at pest management. What else can we do?
Okay, so then important to remember is in terms of chemical control is that you make sure you read the label. It's got to be labeled for use for that insect. Right. And then if it's during the growing season, of course, and you're a commercial grower selling vegetables at market, then you need to pay attention to pre-harvest intervals and making sure that product is off the...
So as far as pests goes, we have plant pests like weeds and other plants creeping into this area. We have insects, darn Asian beetles, and we have animal pests, don't we?
Sure, we have pests like the rabbits in terms of gardeners, and landscapers. Rabbits are probably the number one complaint. Moles would be another one. But for the winter time coming up, we need to remember to protect that. If you've got rabbits in your yard, most of us do, protect those new plantings, those thin-barked seedling or sapling-sized trees from rabbits chewing off the bark in the middle of winter when foods get very scarce.
Now, another aspect of integrated pest management is crop garden rotation. Isn't that true?
Yeah, that's really important for gardeners to think about, planning to plant in a different area. There are a lot of diseases, as an example, that are soil-borne or in that residue. So rotating, this is a good time of year to go out and map your garden. Where did I plant your tomatoes, and then just rotate them to a different place.
So you don't have to rotate them far, just another part of your garden, right?
Well, that's true for the most part. For our small gardener, you don't have the acreage to rotate it out of an area.
Okay.
But for our commercial growers, it's probably a good idea that if you have, the further you can move that, the better.
Okay.
And
so you move the tomatoes from this area to over here. What do you do with the plant residue of the tomatoes?
Yeah, so plant residue, that's a really good point. You need to clean that up. Either collect that and burn it, or you can till it in, break it up. You don't want it to lay on the soil surface all winter long, because insects they pupate and hang out inside that stalk, whether it's the tomato or some other kind of plant, or the disease stays there. So getting that tilled up is a really important aspect.
Both with insect and with disease, it's best to get the material out of there so there's nothing hanging around for the bother the crop next year.
That's right.
Okay, so integrated pest management, is that only for gardeners, or can other people use the same techniques?
No, other people can use it, and our commercial agricultural producers have been using integrated pest management for years, and there's opportunities for them every January to go to our crop conference where they can learn more about integrated pest management, new techniques that have been identified to help them in their arsenal against pests.
Now, given the fact that drought has thrown in a whole bunch of new conditions we haven't seen for a long time, there might be a lot of information that can be covered in these sorts of classes or conferences. Tell me more about this.
Yeah, so our crop conferences we have for commercial growers, commercial agricultural producers, corn and soybean producers. A lot of those meetings are in January, and you can get on our University of Illinois website and look at that calendar of upcoming events. Also for the home gardener and someone interested in gardening, we have coming up in January, beginning in January, we have our Master Gardener class beginning. So if you've always wanted to learn more, not just about integrated pest management, but all those practices, growing plants, and then helping as a volunteer for the Extension Office, check out our website under the Master Gardener column to find out more about becoming a Master Gardener and enrolling those classes. And our deadline for registration will be in December. So you need to think about it now.
So it's time to check out those websites, think about giving yourself a Christmas present of those Master Gardener classes or crop management classes. It sounds like an excellent idea. So thank you very much, Dave. I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you.
August started the trend, but September really bailed us out, of the drought that is. Here with the weather summary for September is Cameron Craig with Under the Four Rivers Skies.
After a long summer of drought and high daytime temperatures, September was the month that reversed the grim situation. I am happy to report that the drought situation has greatly improved to the point that most of the region is now in an abnormally dry status, with a small portion of the region in a normal category. Let's do the numbers. The average temperature for the month was 66.8 degrees, which was 1.3 degrees below the 30-year average of 68.1 degrees. The total precipitation for the month was 8.33 inches, putting September 4.95 inches above the 30-year average of 3.38 inches. Overall, the month was cooler than normal, with significant rainfall that improved the drought situation. For the year, the total precipitation we have received is 24.14 inches, which is 6.63 inches below the 30-year average of 30.77 inches. If you remember, Charleston at the end of August was nearly a foot behind, and Decatur nearly 2 feet behind. With a frequent rainfall throughout the month, all locations in the region have improved significantly, with fewer specific locations still practicing water restrictions. Hurricane Isaac helped to boost precipitation amounts throughout the region in late August. Shortly thereafter, the region saw frequent rain events with slow rain rates that allowed the dry, compact soil to absorb the rain. 3 events provided us with significant rainfall. On the 1st and 2nd of September, we received 2.47 inches of rain. On the 8th, 1.91 inches of rain fell in Charleston. Between September 25th and 26th, 1.47 inches fell. There were 18 days that the region received rain. The shift in the jet stream is behind the shift in drought conditions. In July, the ridge of the jet stream was positioned slightly north of the Great Plains region. This scenario provided us with hot, dry conditions that left us with only 0.08 of an inch of rain all month. In August, the eastern trough began to sink to the southwest, bringing frequent rain events. In September, the trough began to dip further to the south, providing for more precipitation as well as cooler fall-like temperatures. The combination of the shift in the jet stream and moisture at the surface, daytime highs were closer to the daily normal throughout the month. The 6 to 10 day outlook indicates that the temperatures will be below average and precipitation slightly above average. For the month of October, temperatures will be below average and precipitation slightly above average. Some of you may be wondering what is in store for the next few months. At this time, the 3-month outlook indicates that temperatures will be above average and precipitation near normal. Remember, this is an outlook for 3 months and can change month to month or week to week. As far as winter is concerned, let's get through the fall first. Then we can tackle winter when we finally have the influence of the dry summer well behind us.
Last week we found a great story making the rounds. The National Pig Association, a British ag group, declared that there was going to be a severe pork shortage this year in Europe. High grain prices, they said, caused farmers to sell off all or most of their stocks. The story went worldwide. It was on the AP Wire, Major agricultural news outlets ran with it. The story even affected pork futures over here. We were all set to go with it. I even had a great pun in place calling the European tourists coming to America to eat pork as the bacon Brits. Then someone actually checked out the story. There's no National Pig Association in Great Britain. There was no huge sell-off of hogs due to feed prices. Yes, there were more hogs taken to market, but it was much like in the American markets. It was an internet hoax. So that got me thinking about how information is gathered and used and how someone overseas can pull a quick one on us. I wondered about all the people who made or lost money acting on this story. It wasn't the first internet hoax, but was one of the first that I could remember which affected the agricultural community. And unfortunately, there most likely will be more. And with me today to talk about internet hoaxes and why we fall for them is Rodney Marshall. He's a professor of communication studies at Eastern Illinois University. And Rodney, what is an internet hoax to begin with?
Well, an internet hoax is a message that has enough of the truth to make people believe it at the right time when they receive it, and not really check things. Okay. So they consider it to be true when it's not really.
Now this hoax had everything. It was enough believable because of commodity prices were rising and livestock producers were reducing herds, and we can't think of a future without bacon.
Of course.
Of course. So it's the sort of thing, why would they want to do this in the first place? Why create an internet hoax?
Well, the only reason I can come up with as to why is simply because they can. I know that sounds too simple, but what other reason would people have? I mean, maybe they had stock in bacon or something like that. They wanted it to go up. But
That's really interesting because in the commodity business, there is a lot of rumor and movement. It's a very fluid market. It's the epitome of capitalism. And so, it's just a little bit of information bump one way or the other, people can make money off of. Why do we fall for this?
We fall for it because we're greedy.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, people like to be on the front edge of new things. And if the bacon was going to be in short supply, then they wanted to know that. So number one, they could stock up, but probably number one is when they could invest money in that area when the stocks went down.
Right. So, how do we protect ourselves from falling for these things? How do we lessen the chance that we don't overreact next time?
Well, first of all, we have to have self-control.
Okay.
But no, we need to be sure and check our sources. I mean, if it came from AP, then let's go to AP and see if that really came from there. If it has a name with it, then we can check on that individual, which usually has a false name. So that could really help us out that way.
The National Pig Association sounded too good to be true. So,
is there one?
I don't know. I haven't Googled it yet, but apparently not. So are there going to be more or fewer internet hoaxes in the future? And, heaven help us if the answer is more.
I don't know if there will be more, but I don't think it will decrease by any means.
Okay, so we've hit saturation point possibly of internet hoaxes.
Possibly.
Okay. Well,
there's more and more happening.
Well, and if it happens, we might be calling you back to save us from the next one. Thank you, Dr. Marshall.
Thank you very much.
This time a year ago, things were a lot different. We weren't in a drought, the harvest was a bin buster, and there was no Four Rivers Ag Report. Okay, for you it's been a real tough year. Last August, station manager Jack Neal told me to go ahead with a farming and rural living program, and last September 30th, we aired our first episode. There are so many people who helped out during that first year that I cannot begin to name them all, but I would like to thank the people at the Extension Office, Todd Gleason in Urbana, the Farm Bureau people, and my crop guys. All have given their time and expertise to make this show better. Cameron Craig has been invaluable providing Under the Four River Skies segments and being my go-to guy whenever the weather was an issue. And Monica has been great in helping make often intolerable news much more tolerable. Lori, Ramin, and most of all Kate have helped me out behind the scenes, making me look and sound professional. But most of all, I want to thank you. We started out with 0 viewers. Now we have a few more than that. Things we cover on the Four Rivers Ag Report is important to us because it's important to you. And what you do is invaluable to the nation, to the world. What you do is vital to our families. So if we can help tell your story, if we can give you some tools to do your job better, then we have done our job. It's been a great year for the show, for me, and for the station. So we're going to be here for year 2, and we hope we've done enough so you decide to be here too. So work hard, be safe, and enjoy the beautiful sunsets. I'm Fred Peralta, and thanks for watching the Four Rivers Ag Report.